In 1972, I was ordained a priest. What was it? It was an inside calling, a desire, a wanting to serve God, a wanting to serve God's people, a wanting to help people in life. I am in your midst as one who serves. And that was basically the theme I've tried to live for the last 46 years. We should all be people who try our best to live the faith that we have. And my simple prayer is that coming to church helps to fulfill their desires and their needs and moves them into a deeper and a closer relationship with Almighty God.
Monsignor and Me with Monsignor David Cassato.
My dear friends, my brothers and sisters, have any of you read the book When Bad Things Happen to Good People? It's written by a rabbi. It's very famous, and it tries to deal with all the bad things that happen in the world. How do you explain them? And it basically says it's just what happens. Bad things happen in this world. Look at what happened in New Zealand. 50 people in worship gunned down. Is that a bad thing happening to good people? In church, they were in the mosque. Did you see in Montreal? There's the priest at the altar. Boy, I would have ran faster than him. And there's that priest at the altar. Somebody comes up with a knife and stabs him in a holy place. Bad things happening to good people. Is this something new? Did you hear the gospel? They asked Jesus, who's the sinner? This terrible thing happened. They shed the blood. Pilate mixed the blood. And what is one of the greatest restrictions of Jewish people is that mixture of blood. And they mixed the blood. And Jesus says, who's the sinner? Because they always blame people. And then Jesus brings up an example of a tower. Like we have today, you see all those scaffoldings falling on people. And he brings that story up. Who's the sinner? And what is Jesus saying? There's a time and a need for people to change their lives. It doesn't matter. It's not their sin. It wasn't because of this or that. These things happen in life. And being able to keep your life focused. You notice also, there's a very good, in the first reading, an understanding of God. Says to Moses, I am. I am. And you're standing on holy ground. Take off your shoes. Here we are. You ever look here? The candle. Why is that candle always burning? Because this is holy ground. Did you notice today when you came to the church how bright it is? How the colors came into this church? This is holy ground. God dwells here. I am lives here. And to respect God's holy ground, God is present with us. The question of evil happening is going to be here forever and ever. But we need the presence of God in the holy ground to walk through the evil of life. God is with us. That bush never was consumed. It just kept burning and burning and burning. That candle keeps burning and burning and burning to remind us that God is with us. Did you hear in the second reading grumble. Do not grumble. What are we best at? What are we best at? We're best at grumbling. We grumble about everything. You know, like we're grumbling. I grumble every day about the governor in my prayer of the faithful. You grumble. Today there's an opportunity to sign a petition. Grumbling. We tend to grumble about everything. We say, oh, the mayor, oh, the governor, oh, the president. We're grumbling, but do we do anything instead of just grumble? When we look at situations, when we look at a situation simply of people being killed in a mosque or being a priest being attacked, what do? Do we go out to meet a Muslim person and shake hands with someone? Do we go out and try to make a difference? Or do we just grumble about time and about situation? How many of us have a fig tree in our yard? I have a fig tree in my house, and I must tell you, 3 years it bore one fig. One. So what do? Cut it down? Cut it down? Or do you try to work it? Do you try to fertilize it? Do you try to give it more life? You try and try. And that's the whole point of life, trying to make things better than just grumble. My brothers and sisters, Lent is a perfect opportunity to think about our own personal lives. Lent is an opportunity to reflect. Do you have things that you could say were bad that happened to you? You're good people. Bad things have happened to all of us. All of us in this church are good people. Do we grumble about it, or do we try to make a difference? Look at the fig tree. Take care of the fig tree, and it will come, hopefully, to new life. Take care of yourselves. Look at yourselves and try to bring about the gift of new life. The cross is ugly. Look at it. The weeds, the purple, the crown. This will be transformed on Easter Sunday to gold, to flowers, to beauty, transformation, new life. Don't just grumble, make a difference. That's what Lent is all about. Amen. Millie, what's going on today? I'm glad you stopped by.
How are you doing, Monsignor?
I can't complain. Things are good. It's good days, good days.
So the viewers, they would like to know, what is a Monsignor?
What is a Monsignor? Monsignor is a priest. Everybody wants to know, where did you get that Monsignor? Monsignor is an honorary title. Basically, it's father. And there are certain times in your life when things happen in your life where you do certain things that are kind of special. And the bishop recognizes that and writes to the Pope. And the Pope then in turn raises you to the level of a Monsignor. And I was made a Monsignor before you were born. I was made a Monsignor in 1988 when Bishop McGovern was Bishop of Brooklyn. And I took on a responsibility that no one seemed to want to do. And when I took that responsibility on in 1988, he remembered how willing I was and how happy I was to do it. And I took on that responsibility, and he showed me the thanks by making him Monsignor. You get a letter from the Pope, and as a matter of fact, it's right over here. It was when Pope John Paul II was Pope, and it's a decree, and it says Nostra Palatum Honorium, the prelate of honor, and that was the time I became a Monsignor. I was a very young priest. I was probably one of the youngest in the Diocese of Brooklyn. I was about 41 years old, and that's because I did a task that the bishop couldn't find anybody to do, so he wanted to show me that thanks for that, and that's how it happened. It happened back when I was a very, very young kid. My hair was dark. I had a big, thick mustache. There's a picture of it on the credenza over here too. But that's what happened to me way back when I was very young. I don't know if I could move. It's right over there. But if you would mind to get the picture, it's right over there.
What interested you in becoming a priest?
Well, the interest in being a priest, it's a very long story, but it's a very short story. I went to public school for kindergarten back many, many years ago. I went to kindergarten, and the teachers were Miss Abramowitz and Miss Kaplan. And at Christmas time, I came home to my father and said to him, with a picture of a menorah, "Why aren't we Jewish?" The next day, he said to my mother, "Go register him in the Catholic school, which had just opened, Holy Family in Canarsie." And I went to register in the Catholic school in Holy Family in Canarsie, and I met what they called nuns. And I had nuns all through elementary school. Those nuns were a very, very, very strong influence on my life. And really, they gave me the desire to be a priest. I remember when I was in the second grade, I was making First Communion, and I was never a kid to raise my hand in school and say this and that. I was never like that. I was very quiet. I used to keep to myself. I raised my hand, and one of those penmanship books, the old penmanship books, I want to be a priest because when I grow up, it started off, when I grow up, I want to be a priest to help people make their first Holy Communion. I was making my first Holy Communion, and I saw the priest as the one that helps the young people to make their first communion. And it kind of carried me. It carried me that that's what happened. And I wanted to be a priest. It never, never left me. In the 8th grade, I mentioned it to my 8th grade nun, Sister Gemma. I kept it to myself, but in 8th grade, I said I wanted to be a priest. And when Sister Gemma found out, my marks went from 82 to 92. I always tell people I should have told them in the 1st grade I wanted to be a priest because my marks went right up. So she was grooming me. She was grooming me to be a priest. And she wanted me to go to the seminary at that time after 8th grade, which at that time I was very young. I was 13. I was 12 and a half, 13. And my father was very, very much against it at that age, which I thank God he stopped me then. He said, if you want to do this, go after high school. So after high school, it still stayed with me. After high school, I applied to the seminary. I wanted to be a missionary. I wanted to go to the mission lands and teach and preach and all that. And what happened was I went to see a diocesan priest. His name was Father Walter Mitchell. And Father Mitchell said to me, why don't you become a diocesan priest, a Brooklyn priest? Because it would be easier for your father to take like the idea of you becoming a priest. And I followed his hint, and I became a diocesan priest. So that's what happened to me. And I can only say I'm almost 50 years a priest now, almost 50 years. And I can say I have no regrets. I have no regrets about being a priest. It's interesting when you talk about Monsignor. People that knew me when I was a young priest still call me Father Dave. It's the people that know me later in life that call me Monsignor. It's absolutely amazing.
Right, because when I first met you, I kept calling you Father, and I was asking, what is a Monsignor,
You kept asking the question. Now
right, now I know.
It's just like, what the way the church rewards people, they dress them up. They put them in color. So now, you from the black cassock, you wear a black and red cassock with the sash. That's just a distinction of Monsignor. I have another cassock that I can wear on special occasions. That's all red. It's amazing. That one you see like Technicolor. I'm in Technicolor.
I wanted to discuss about your early life, your childhood. First, where were you born?
Millie, I'm a Brooklynite. All my life I spent in Brooklyn. I was born right here in Canarsie, which is maybe 15 minutes from here. I grew up in Canarsie, grew up on East 95th Street and Foster Avenue in Canarsie. And there in Canarsie, we all lived in the same house. My mother and father, my grandmother and grandfather, my aunt and uncle, and my cousins. My brother and I, we all lived in one house. So we always lived with my grandparents. My grandparents were they were born in Italy, but they came here to America for a better life. My grandfather was a veteran of World War I. He served in the American Army, and we lived in this same house all our lives, and it was just a wonderful experience. It was a real tight family experience, and we grew up all together. All my family, in those days, my father had 6 other brothers and sisters, and we all lived in Canarsie. So every block was a block filled with family members. You go here and there, you'd always run into your family. Interesting enough, my cousins were a little tougher in growing up than I was. And I was towards the end of the line of my 25 cousins. They all went to Holy Family School in Canarsie. And of course, the nuns would say, "Oh, I got another Cassato." And they would say, "Oh, I hope you're not like your cousins." And "Oh, no, sister, no, sister." But we all grew up in a very same environment in Canarsie. Lived in Brooklyn all my life. Went to the seminary in Albany for 6 years. My first assignment was as a priest was in St. Rita, Long Island City for 13 years. So out of my 72 years, 13 and 6, 19 years were not in Brooklyn. All the rest of my life has been right here in Brooklyn.
Did you attend public school or did you go straight to Catholic school?
I went to public school just for 6 months for kindergarten. And then when that all happened about the religion thing, I went right to the Catholic school. Went to all Catholic schools. I went to Holy Family in Canarsie, St. John's Prep, Cathedral College, Our Lady of Angels Seminary. I've had all Catholic education all my life. I don't regret it either. I had a great education, very thorough education. The nuns were terrific. The priests that I had were terrific. It was a very, very good time.
Are you and your family close?
Yeah, my mother and father are both deceased. My brother lives on Long Island and with his family, and my niece, if you know, my niece has her 2 children here. She lives in Rockaway, and she brings the children here to school they're in pre-K now. They're universal pre-K, UPK. Yeah, they're together with Storm.
Yes.
With your guy. But we're a close family. We're a very close family. We try to do a lot of things together, especially at this time of the year. With now Easter coming up, we'll be together for Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday. Yeah, we'll be together.
You had mentioned that your parents were from Italy, right?
My grandparents.
Your grandparents?
My grandparents were from Italy. My parents were both born here. My father was one of 9.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was one of 2. My father's family, I think, except for my cousins, are all deceased. His brothers and sister are all deceased, and my mother's family is, my cousins, my mother's nieces and nephews. But most of my family is scattered now. We're all scattered all over the place. It's not like before when everybody lived in the 30 blocks of Canarsie.
Did you ever go to Italy?
Oh, Italy! I've been to Italy many, many times. I love Rome. I love Rome. If you want to feel like a Catholic priest, you go to Rome. It's just a wonderful, wonderful experience. I was there. I haven't been there in a while. I guess maybe the last time I was there was 2013. I haven't been there since 2013. But I love going to Italy. I love Italy. It's the roots. It's the roots. You know, you experience, you get that feeling of family. You get that feeling of what my grandparents went through, et cetera, et cetera. It's a wonderful, wonderful time going there.
That's on my bucket list too.
You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to go to Rome. Rome is a beautiful city. I said Mass in St. Peter's. I had an audience with the Pope.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a beautiful experience. It's when you pull up to St. Peter and you see the basilica, you just can't believe you're standing in front of it. You just can't believe you're standing in front of it. It's the view, the sightseeing. And when you walk into St. Peter's, you know, for the outside, but when you walk in the inside, you just are taken with the magnificence of the place. Magnificent. I'd like to go. You got me thinking about it now. Got me thinking maybe get me to get a trip together, get a parish trip together. We all can go together.
You had mentioned about like a parish retreat. What is that? Can you tell me a little bit about it?
A parish retreat. We run a retreat in the parish every year. Basically, it's a retreat to come away.
Mm-hmm.
You go away to a different spot, usually some sort of monastery or some sort of religious house. You have a retreat master, somebody that gives conferences about the spiritual life. You know, like say a simple thing like a talk on patience,
Mm-hmm.
and just to give a reflection on the virtue of patience, how you deal with people, how do you deal with situation, how God deals with us, how God is patient with us. And that whole sense, just a simple thing, something very practical to live by, something to deepen your own spiritual life and your own spiritual well-being.
Where is the retreat this year?
The retreat this year is in the seminary. It's the old seminary in Huntington, Long Island. It's called Immaculate Conception Seminary. And it's a very beautiful place. It's on about 200 acres of land. So you have this, you know, you have your ability to walk, to reflect, to think, to pray, say the rosary, Stations of the Cross, visits to the Blessed Sacrament, all those things that will help you, you know, deal with life and life's issues. It's amazing when you come home from a retreat of 2 or 3 days, you always feel refreshed. Every priest is required to make a week retreat every year. So we make our retreats in Huntington or different places from a Monday to Friday, a week retreat. It's a time to step back, think about things, reflect about things, and try to, you know, make yourself more spiritually guided. It's a great experience. You got to go.
I need to go.
Maybe you got to sign up for it. It's a great experience, a very good experience.
So what is a typical day for you?
Well, a typical day usually starts about 6:30. I get up usually and do the things that everybody does. You know, you take have a breakfast or say Mass, and then the things that come your way. Like today is a little bit easier. But yesterday, for instance, I got up, I had Mass at 9 o'clock, I had the prayers to St. Anthony after the Mass, I went to see the nursing home, I went to see a person in the nursing home in Staten Island, I had lunch, I came back, I went to see 3 other people in nursing homes, I had, let me think, where was I? I had another appointment at 3 o'clock. And then I wound up staying in for a little while, then meeting some old friends for a late dinner. I had a card party meeting, you know, for the spring fling, for the school, all that stuff. The days vary, the days are busy, the days are good. Most days are busy. Every once in a while, today is not too bad. Today is pretty easy for me. There's not too many appointments today.
That's good.
Yeah, it gives you a little break.
Yeah, you need the break.
Yep. You do. You need the break. You need a retreat. You need time to kind of recharge your batteries.
Is there a specific time that you need to be back at the rectory?
No, No. I mean, we have meals. Every day we have dinner. The rectory has dinner. We have dinner every night at 5:30. All the priests, we usually sit together and have dinner at 5:30. Just to kind of be together, to talk. We have a cook in the rectory that cooks, and it's a good time to sit down and talk about what's going on in the parish, how you're doing, etc. But it's that kind of routine every day. There's a routine and there's not a routine. There's the way you want to do it. Each day is different. Every day is different. So that's a big thing for me.
I wanted to discuss with you about like people who are homeless and shelters. How does the church help them?
Well, there's so many things. If you really realize the Catholic Church is the largest institution that has been taking care of the poor. We have taken care of God's poor. We get a lot of negative things in the press of late. But if you really look, the Catholic Church is right there for years and years and years taking care of God's poor people. What do? A simple thing is, what do we do here at St. A's? And I think you know a little bit. On Wednesdays, we have a food pantry. People come in and they come in and we give them canned goods, things like that, everything that they need for themselves to take home. We offer that. We give food vouchers. We help people in many, many ways to do that. That's a very big part of our social ministry, our outreach. St. Dominic's, the other church that I'm the administrator of, they have a clothing, not a clothing drive, they have a clothing center where people can come and get clothes, and a tremendous amount of clothing. So people bring in the clothes and then we give them out. It's a very much, we do that. I mean, but the Catholic Church all over, there's a thing called Catholic Charities. And there's all sorts of places that Catholic Charities runs. Maybe that they have institutions, places that they have for kids that have problems. They have people helping with drug addiction. They have people helping also in the hospitals, chaplaincies throughout the Brooklyn and Queens. We service Brooklyn and Queens.
Thank you for your time, Monsignor.
Millie, it's great to sit down here and talk with you. You're always very, very kind to me. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, great. Don't forget to come again.
Jesus, Prince of Peace.
Monsignor and Me with Monsignor David Cassato.